the clock that didn't like being late. Inside lived inventor Kendu, whose hair always looked as if it had just argued with the wind and lost. But the most curious thing in the workshop was not a machine at all. It was a tall, wooden, small clock standing quietly in the corner, its pendulum swinging with careful patience. This small clock had a round face, cream-colored and slightly cracked, with numbers written by hand instead of printed. At the very top, where most clocks had a name or a carving, someone had written in small letters, "On time is never too early." Kendu had built the small clock years ago, using parts from broken watches, an old music box, and a bell he found at a bicycle shop. He had meant it to be an ordinary clock. But from the very first day, it behaved oddly. It rang when it wanted to. Not every hour, not every half hour. Sometimes it rang at 3 minutes past 7, sometimes at 11 minutes before noon. Once, it rang at exactly 4 seconds after midnight, waking Kendu so suddenly that he fell out of bed and landed on a pile of blueprints. "What now?" Kendu grumbled, rubbing his elbow. The small clock answered by ringing again, ding, 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 sharp and impatient. "You know," Kendu said, pointing at it, "most clocks tell time. They don't shout at inventors." The small clock, of course, did not reply. It simply went quiet, as if satisfied. Kendu might have ignored the small clock entirely if it weren't for Emma and Kabu. Emma lived next door and believed every problem had a solution if you stared at it long enough. Kabu, her best friend, believed every problem could be solved faster if you pushed a button. They visited Kendu's workshop every afternoon after school, stepping carefully around loose wires and stacks of notebooks. One day, just as Kabu was about to test a pair of spring-powered shoes without checking the instructions, the small clock rang. Ding, ding! Kabu froze mid-step. Does it usually do that?" Kendu frowned. "Usually yes, but it's never done it right now." Emma glanced at Kabu's shoes. One spring was bent the wrong way. "If you jumped," she said slowly, "you'd probably bounce through the ceiling." Kabu swallowed. "So the clock just saved my skull?" The small clock gave a single proud ding. That was the first time they noticed the pattern. The next day, the small clock rang just before Emma forgot to return a library book she'd promised to bring back. The day after that, it rang when Kendu was about to leave a burner on under a pot of glue, always before something small went wrong, always early enough to stop it. "It doesn't like being late," Kabu said one afternoon, watching the pendulum swing. "It wants problems fixed before they happen." Kendu stared at the small clock with new respect. "Then it's smarter than most people." Word spread quickly. Neighbors stopped by, asking if the small clock could ring before they missed the bus or forgot an umbrella. But the small clock didn't ring for everyone. It rang only in the workshop, and only when something nearby was about to become a bigger mess. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the windows, the small clock rang again, but this time it didn't stop. Ding, 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 ding. Louder, faster. Kabu covered his ears. Okay, we get it." But nothing seemed wrong. No sparks, no spills, no runaway robots. Emma noticed the pendulum. It was swinging wildly now, faster than ever before. "Kendu," she said, her voice tight, "I don't think it's warning us about something small." Before he could answer, the lights flickered. A low hum rose from beneath the floorboards. The small clock rang once more long and urgent, then fell silent. A hidden panel slid open near the back wall, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling downward. Kendu stared. "I did not build that," Kabu grinned nervously. "But you're going to say we should go down there, right?" The hum grew louder. Emma took a breath. If the clock warns us before things get worse, this must already be late. They descended into a dim room filled with ticking sounds. Gears the size of bicycle wheels turned slowly, connected to a massive mechanism beneath the workshop. At its center was a second clock, larger, older, and cracked down the middle. "This," Kendu whispered, "is the first clock," he explained as they stared. Long ago, he had tried to build a machine that could notice tiny mistakes, missed moments, forgotten promises, ignored warnings, and gently remind people before those mistakes grew heavy and hard to fix. Overwhelmed, Kendu shut it down and built the smaller, small clock upstairs instead, hoping it would only ring when it truly mattered. But now, the first clock was waking up. The gears began to spin faster. Bells chimed faintly, echoing through the room. "If it fully starts," Emma said, "it'll ring all the time. No one will ever learn to notice things on their own." Kabu looked at the small clock upstairs through the open panel. "So, what do we do?" The small clock rang once, soft, calm. Kendu understood. "We reset it," he said. Together. They worked quickly, Kabu, adjusting switches, Emma aligning gears, Kendu steadying the pendulum. As they worked, the ringing slowed, the hum softened. Finally, with a gentle click, the first clock came to rest. Silence filled the room. Back upstairs, the small clock ticked peacefully. From that day on, it rang less often, only when something truly mattered. And every time it did, Emma, Kabu, or Kendu paused, looked around, and fixed the little thing before it grew big. The small clock never rang late again, and neither did they.